been meaning to film a full reformer class for ages and I've just not got round to it, so I thought I would do that for you today. So anyone that has an at-home reformer, any reformer teachers that want some class inspiration, follow along. We're going to do a full body workout. It's going to be intermediate, easy to follow, hopefully. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this. I always start my classes with footwork. I have more of a classical machine, so I have two rows of notches. I've got pegs and hooks. I'm doing this on 3 red springs on the pegs, but if you have a more contemporary machine, I would do this on medium springs. So either 2 reds and a blue, or if you want a bit more of a challenging option, then I would do a red, green and a blue spring. It's actually too cold in here to take this off yet, but I'm sure we'll get warm. So once you have got your springs on, you're going to lie down onto your back. And then we're just going to take the feet over the foot bar. So the back of the knees comes over the foot bar, and then you might just want to shuffle your hips down a little bit just so your legs can hang nice and loose down the other side. And then we're just closing down the eyes. So you might want to bring one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. And we're just going to start taking a couple of nice deep breaths here. So we inhale through the nose. And as you inhale, think about those ribs expanding out to the sides of the room, getting as much air in those lungs as we can. And then as you exhale, release. We think about drawing that belly button towards the spine, releasing the air out of those lungs. And we go again for 2 more breaths. So nice deep inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, again you release. Draw that belly button towards the spine. Really let go of all of the air out of the lungs. And then last one, nice deep breath. Make this one the deepest breath that we've done all day. Taking as much air as we can in. And then exhale again, you release. Okay, then you're going to bring your feet onto the foot bar now. So you want to make sure you've still got a little bit of a gap between yourself and those shoulder blocks. The hands are down by the sides of the body. We can open up the eyes now. And the toes are coming onto the foot bar. Now you come into hip width distance, so just a little bit of a gap between your feet. And we just start with some nice easy bends and extends. So we exhale as we push that carriage away. And then you inhale to come all the way back into that stopper. So exhale as we push out. Inhale, bring it all the way back in. Push away. And bring it back. 4 more here. And 3. Last 2. And last one, we extend all the way out. Now this time we just start to come in for 2. And then as you exhale, you push out for 2. So bend in for 2 and come out for 2. Exhale, push in. Exhale, push out. Inhale to push back in. Good. We're going to do 2 more of those. Good. And then here we're just going to finish with some little pulses. So we're just pulsing up and down. So think about just moving that carriage up and down just an inch. We do a couple of those. And then we close the carriage. Come all the way back to that stopper. Lifting our heels up onto the foot bar now for this next bit. So nice deep inhale as we prepare. And then exhale as you push out. So lifting the heels up onto the foot bar just activates different muscles. So we're working through those thighs a little bit more here. Also activating through the glutes. Make sure you keep pressing into those hands so we keep the core switched on. And we want to make sure that we're still moving nice and slowly. So exhale nice and slowly, come all the way to the top, take the bend out of the knees, and then we come all the way back in. We're going to add in a couple of halfway lifts now. So just bending the knees into that halfway point. Exhale as we push out. We go in and we come back out. We go in and come out. We're doing 4 more here like this. And 3. Good. Last 2. And last one, and then again we're finishing with those little pulses. Keep pulsing, keep breathing through it, using your breath to help you here. So just tiny little movements. Just think about moving that carriage just an inch. And then we close, come all the way back to that stopper. Just take a little rock of those knees from side to side. Make sure you come all the way over. Find that nice release through the lower spine. Taking a little moment just to take that stretch. And then we're going to come into V toes here. We keep our heels on the foot bar. And again, we just start to push away. And then we bend the knees and return to the stopper. So nice, easy, classical supine footwork here. Just warming up through those feet. Warming the body up as we prepare for the workout. So I know it's easy to try and skip our footwork, but I personally usually like to start each session with footwork. Just make sure that we're warming the body up. We come all the way back in. And then we take our toes onto the foot bar. We keep in that V shape. We lift through the heels. And then we just extend and bend. Come back to that stopper. So push out and in. I would probably do about 8 to 10 of these. So we push away. And then we come all the way back in. Control it on the return. Make sure we're getting that full extension. So no bend in the knee as we push out. And then we control it nice and slowly. Make sure that we stay lifted through those heels. Good. And let's come all the way in. All right, let's come all the way out to the edges of the foot bar now. Tips of the toes are on. We take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, you push away. And then we bend and return. Exhale to push out. And then we come back in. Push away and bring it back. 4 more. And 3. Last 2. And 1. We come all the way back into that stopper. Staying out at bar width, but we lift our heels onto the foot bar this time. We take a nice deep breath. And then you push out. We come back in. Push away. And bring it back. Couple more here. Last 3. And 2. Last 1. We come all the way back into that stopper. Just taking the feet back to that hip width distance. And then just having a little rock round side to side. You can grab onto these pegs if you want. As you take those knees over from side to side and just feel that nice stretch through the lower back. All right, let's get into some single leg footwork now. So this is a little bit more challenging than the work that you've just done. So if you do want to drop it down a spring and if you're on 2 reds and a blue, you should be fine. If you're on a green, a red and a blue, then you might want to take that green spring off and add a red spring on, but just listen to your body. Left leg is going to lift up into tabletop. So we want a nice 90-degree bend here with that leg on the right side. We lightly point the toes on the left foot towards the front of the room. And then the right foot is on the foot bar, just with the tips of the toes. And then just the same thing. So we push that carriage away. Going to feel a little bit heavier now. Starting to feel the work a little bit more in that right thigh. Bring it all the way in. And we push out and extend. Bring it back. And bring it in. 4. And 3. Last 2. Last 1. We stop at that halfway point, and then we're going to finish with those little pulses. Pulse, pulse, pulse. And then we can close that carriage. Let's lift our heel up onto the foot bar now. We keep that same leg lifted up into tabletop. And then we're just working through that right side. So really starting to feel that burn in that right thigh. Making sure that you keep this leg lifted up into tabletop. So especially as we get a little bit more tired, the leg's going to start to do all sorts of things. Just try and actively keep it in that same position as we work through these bends and extends. Stop at that halfway point And then we just finish with those little pulses here on this side. Pulse, 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 and we close the carriage. Nice job. Take a little breather, take that rock. We're going to do a calf stretch here before we move into that other side. So you're wrapping the tips of the toes over the foot bar. So just thinking like we're a little bird on a perch. We take a nice deep breath, and then as you exhale, you're just going to push out to the top of that carriage. Now you keep the legs straight. We stay lifted through the heels. All that's happening now is we're wrapping those heels underneath the foot bar. So you're feeling that nice deep stretch down the back of the legs, and then you lift up onto those heels. So think like we're wearing big high heels. We're just wrapping and lifting. The whole body is staying nice and stable. We just work through these wraps and lifts. We try and find a little bit more height through those heels each time we come up. Wrap, lift, wrap, lift, 2 more, wrap, lift, stay nice and high on those heels, and then we're going to move into our runners. So you bend one knee, opposite heel wraps. So literally just like we're running on that foot bar. We try and keep the body nice and stable. So keeping those hips square. It's a nice dynamic movement, this one. So the knees just brush past one another. There's no pulsing in between, none of this. It's just wrap, 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 wrap. Good. And if you do want to think about your breath work, if you are newer to Pilates, then just remembering to breathe is enough. But if you do want to have a little think about breath work, then it's inhale, inhale, exhale, exhale, inhale, inhale, exhale, exhale. We lift nice and high on those heels, and then we return to that stopper. Now we're going to do the other side, single leg footwork. So your opposite leg lifts up into tabletop. We take a nice deep breath, and then we push away. Bring it back into that stopper. Push out and come back in. Push away, control it on the return. Nice, we're doing 2 more. Last one. Come into that halfway point, and then we're adding in those little pulses. So we're just pulsing up and down, keep engaged through that right leg, all of the muscles squeezing nice and tight. We return. Now let's lift that heel up onto the foot bar, and then same thing, we just push out and we come back in. Push out and bring it back. 6, 5, 4, and 3. Good, last 2, last 1. And then we can come let's come halfway in, and we're going to finish with those pulses, not forgetting those pulses. Really firing up through that thigh on the left side. Do as many as you can do. I would say try and do at least 8 to 10. Oh, really going to get the thigh. And then you can come all the way back. It's our footwork done. We are going to do a couple of stretches now before we get into a bit of cardio as well, which I always think is quite fun to do on the Reformer. I'm going to take these socks off because they don't have very good grip, so that's very naughty of me. Right, we're starting with a hip flexor stretch. So we have our right foot in line with that hinge on the foot bar. The left foot is back against the shoulder block. The gaze is forward. We've got a bend in this right knee. As you exhale, you just push that carriage away. So we're thinking about bringing this hip flexor down nice and close to that carriage. We want to put the weight into our hands. So we've got nice, long, straight arms. And then if you want a little bit more here in this stretch, we can come onto the palms of the hands. The fingertips can reach up. That'll just allow you to get a little bit deeper here. If it feels better for your body, we can also be coming in and out. But I would challenge yourself to try and hold it in that stretch. Try and hold it for a couple of seconds. We're also going to add in a bit of spinal rotation here now. So we're going to start to lift that right hand up off that foot bar. We rotate the spine around. Try and keep your hand nice and narrow. We're looking towards the back of the room. And then we start to take that hand up. We come out of that spinal rotation. And then we can close the carriage. A little rounding through the spine. Moving into a hamstring stretch. So just the same thing happens, but this time we lengthen out that leg on the right side. We come up onto the heel. Should feel that nice stretch down the back of the hamstrings there. And again, same thing, if you want that a little bit more, you can just come onto the heel, really press into the palms of the hands. Hold it there for a couple of breaths. And then we can come all the way in. Right, so flying lunges, cardio on a reformer. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but we're not here for that long. It is going to get our heart rate up. So we start in that same position. So you're coming into that hip flexor stretch. And then to get into the first layer of this, what we're going to do, we're going to put the weight into the hands. We think about rounding through the spine. We draw that belly button towards our spine and we scoop up. So we're scooping the body up. That right leg is just lifting up. We want a nice long leg. The toes are pointed towards the floor. So it's important to get that momentum. It takes you a little bit of time to get into it. But once we've got into the swing of things, we get nice and deep through that hip flexor stretch. And then we round through that spine. Right leg lifts up. Nice straight leg, engaging the muscles in the leg. And we point the toes. Ooh, a couple more of these. Let's do 3 and 2. Last one. And then you can come all the way back in. Have a little bit of a breather in between. Definitely does get your heart rate up. I'm ready to take this jacket off now. So, next little layer. And don't feel that you need to add in the progressions always. I always say it's important to get level 1 mastered and boxed off, and then you can slowly add the progressions. So if you do want this progression, we start in that hip flexor stretch, so you're really pushing out through that hip flexor, and then we round through the spine. This time that right leg is going to lengthen out behind us. We point those toes towards the back of the room. Now, some things to think about. Make sure we've got that nice long leg. So we take the bend out of the knee, lifting up through that heel. So try and lift your heel up in line with your glute. There is going to be a bit of a bend in the leg, but just get it as straight as we can. Keep pointing those toes. Ooh. Do a couple of those. And then again, you can come all the way back in. This does feel a little bit, I was wondering what that was. That's better. Okay, my carriage wasn't coming all the way in because it was stuck on those straps, which does happen sometimes. Right, okay, so next progression. This is the last progression in that little series. And again, don't feel like you need to add this in if you don't want it. It's just that option there for anyone that would like it. So we start with that hip flexor stretch. We get nice and low. And then we cross up and over the body this time. So we're crossing up and over, up and over, up and over. Nearly there. Let's do 4 more here. And 3. Last 2. And last one. And then you can come all the way back in. Really nice job, guys. Oh, really does get the heart rate up quite quickly, that one. So I'm going to have us do a little bit of core work whilst we're here before we get round to that other side. So we're actually just going to start bringing our heart rate back down a little bit, having a nice little stretch here. So taking a hold of the sides of the carriage, just sitting back on the heels, and we take a nice few deep breaths. So nice deep inhale. And then as you exhale, release. Let's do 2 more nice deep breaths. And then release. Last one, nice deep breath. And then release. And just because it feels good here, I'm going to do a couple of cat-cow stretches. So you're taking a hold of the sides of the carriage. You want your shoulders and your wrists in a nice straight line. And then we're just arching through the spine. That head is looking up. And then as you exhale, we round through that spine. Look towards those thighs. 2 more. Nice deep inhale through. Sorry. Nice. We just arch through the spine, lift our head, and then we round. Look towards those thighs. Lift up. And then round. Okay, moving into our reverse knee stretch now. So you might want to take the hands a little bit further up the carriage. We stay in this nice flat back, and you're bringing your knees up against those shoulder blocks. So making sure that we're nice and tight through that core, so tummy to spine. Nice deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you just take those hips underneath you. You're coming towards the hands. Just make sure that the thumbs aren't in the way. We don't want any trapping of those thumbs. I can't remember whether I said this. I think I did, but we are on 1 red spring, so just 1 red spring here. Exhale as we bring those hips underneath us. We try and maintain that flat back, and then you slowly control it back to that stopper. Good. Come all the way back in. We're going for 3 more. And 2. Use your breath to help you here. So the exhale to bring you in. Inhale as you slowly return. Last one. Bring it all the way in. Hold it here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then let's sit back on those heels. Keep the hands where we are and just find that nice deep stretch. Take that breather in between. Right, so I would give, you've got the option here. I'm going to drop down onto a blue spring for this, just because I'm not super strong through my upper body, but you might want to challenge yourself and try this on a red spring. So just see how it feels. We're going to move into a bit of upper body work now. So we start to slowly feed our hands all the way up to these risers. You're going to grab onto the risers and you're holding them at the sides here. And we try and stay sat back on those heels. I just want to make sure that you can see me. Just 1 second. Come all the way up to these risers. Feed your hands up. And then we grab a hold of the risers here. So try and stay sat back through the heels. So it's just the upper body working here. And then you just bring in the elbows in towards the ribs as you exhale. And then you can inhale and release. So exhale as we bring those elbows in. And then release. 3. And 4. Good. We're going to do 4 more. Last 3. Last 2 here. Last 1. You're going to bring it in, hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then slowly just feed your hands back down the carriage. We're going to have that little stretch before we move into the other side. And I am going to change my mind on the springs. I feel like definitely a blue is going to be enough, because a blue was hard even doing the double-sided work, and we're now going to move into unilateral work, so this is going to be even harder. So when you're ready, we take our hands all the way back up. You come back to those risers, but this time we're going to bring the right hand to the base of the back, and the palm is going to face up, and then you just bring in that elbow in towards your rib, working off that one side. And 3. Let's do 3 more. Oh, these are hard. Last 2. And last 1. And then take your hands all the way back down. Good. Have a little breather there. Not easy. Not easy, those. I would even maybe say we'll drop down to a yellow, but I don't want to be weak. We are made of strong stuff. Let's remember that. Right, let's take our hands all the way back up. We're holding on to that right riser. This time the left hand comes to the base of the back. This is my weaker side. Exhale as we bring it in. 2. And 3. Oh, gosh. 4. 5. Last 1. And then we can come all the way back down. Goodness me, that is hard work. Right, I'm gonna have a little full body stretch here. So, for this one, you wanna bring your feet onto the foot bar, and you've just got a little gap between your toes. So, hip width gap between the feet. You might need to shuffle your hips down just so you can find this nice bend through the body, okay? And we start looking forward. We draw those shoulders away from the ears. We take a nice deep breath. As you exhale, you just start to lengthen out through those legs. You think about bringing your nose towards your knees, and we try and lengthen out through the legs. So you should feel a nice deep stretch through the shoulders here, through the back, through those calves, lower spine. It is literally a full body stretch. So it's really, really nice. We're just going to hold it for a couple of breaths. 3, 2, 1. And then we can come all the way back in. Right, let's get into a little bit of box work. So we're dropping back, well actually we're ramping back up onto that red spring, and then you are going to grab your box. It's coming round to the left side of, no, this is the right side of my carriage. I don't know my lefts and rights half the time. Now you want to set this up so the box, the top of the box, is just in line with that hinge on the foot bar, and then you're going to take your right foot to the top left side of the box, and then the left foot just comes up against those shoulder blocks, and then you're going to stand up nice and tall. Yeah. So we're just starting with some lunges. So you've got a little bit of a bend in that right knee, and then you're just pushing off that left foot, and then you come all the way back into that stopper. So push that carriage away, and then we come all the way back in. Make sure that you control that carriage on the way in, and that we come all the way back to that stopper. Make sure you close the carriage. Now, you want a little bit of a hinge forward with your body as you press away. So if you look down to that right knee, should be tracking over your big toe. And then this hinge forward with the body is going to help with your balance. So we don't want to try and stay up tall. You want to make sure that you're having that little hinge. It'll also allow you to get a little bit deeper into that lunge. Couple more. And 2. Good, last one. Push away, and this time you're pushing out. We're going to hold it here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you come all the way back in. Right. Now, you do have the option just to stick with those single lunges, or if you do want to add a little bit of a progression, we start the same. So we take a nice deep breath, inhale, prepare, exhale as you push away. This time, those hands are going to reach up and overhead, and then we're just skating with this left knee. So that left knee is just coming in and out. Think about just bringing it in and out an inch. It's really going to start to get those glutes on that right leg, and then all through the thigh on the left leg. Let's do a few more here. 3, 2, 1. And then you can come all the way back in. Okay, now we're going to drop that red spring down onto a blue spring. And obviously, usually, a blue spring, well, it's not obvious. Blue spring usually means that the exercise is easier, with a couple of exceptions, this being one of them. So because it's a lighter spring, the carriage is going to move quite quickly. So it relies on your body weight to keep the control through the carriage and to get you back in. So yeah, just something to be mindful of. So you come back to that same setup. So we're on the balls of the feet on that left foot that's against the shoulder block. Right foot is at the top left side of the box. And then we just push into those lunges. So we just start with those single lunges, drop nice and low, pitching forward with the body. Now you'll feel the difference with that spring. It's going to be harder to get that carriage back in because it's on a light spring, but the carriage is going to move away more quickly. Good. We do 2 more here. And last one. And then again, you're going to drop low, hold it, and then just finishing with those skaters with that left knee. We go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then just because I'm evil, let's just lift up onto this right thigh, and then you're just going to move into some pulses to finish here. So just think about dropping that left knee down as close to that carriage as we can, and we just keep pulsing. We try and keep the carriage nice and stable. It will move a bit. Do as many as you can do, and then you close the carriage, come all the way back in. I'm losing my breath here. Okay, right, we're going to move into some glute work, so targeting this glute on the right side. So for this one, you stand with that left foot in the center of the box. The right foot is up against that shoulder block. Now you've just got the tips of the toes touching the shoulder block. Both of the feet are facing forwards. You're standing up nice and tall. So to begin, we take a nice deep breath, and then you drop into a low lunge from here. As you exhale, you're going to push that carriage away. Now you want to lengthen out this right leg, and then you bend that knee underneath you, and then we lift up, make sure we're squeezing the glutes at the top. So we drop it down low, push that carriage away, bring it in, lift and squeeze. Drop it low, push away, bring it in, lift, squeeze. 3 more, and 2. Good. Last one. This time you're going to hold it down low, and then you're adding in that skating leg with that right leg. So just pushing the carriage into that extension, and then bend the knee underneath you. Oh, it burns. 3, 2, 1. And then you can return the carriage all the way back down to that stopper. And then we are done with that box work. Okie dokie. Right, so for this one, we're staying on that blue spring. Now, you've got 2 options for this. You can either be on your elbows. So if you have any issues with your wrists, or you just want something that's a little bit less challenging, then you can be on the elbows. And then progression is to have the hands on the shoulder blocks. Now, the tips of the toes are on that platform extender. And we're starting with a little bear plank here. So we come into that nice flat back, make sure the core is switched on, and you're just going to lift and lower through those knees. So we think about just lifting the knees up an inch and then lower back down. So lift up and lower. Lift up, lower. 4 more, and 3. Last 2. Last 1, lift up, hold it here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you can drop down on those knees. We sit back on the heels. We can take a hold of the sides of the carriage and just take a little deep breath here, in and out. Now that may well be enough for you, so that's our first layer. If you do want to add on, we're going to move into a full plank from here. So we come back to that same setup position. So we've got the tips of the toes on the platform extender, the hands are on the shoulder blocks, or you can be on the elbows holding onto those pegs. Choose whichever option you would like. So we start lifting up into that bear plank. And then from here, you push the carriage away. We're going to bring the hips nice and low, and you're just coming into that full plank. We're going to hold it here for 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you can bend those knees, come all the way back in and find that little deep stretch here. Hold it for a breath. And then we release, right. So we're going to come on to the elbows for this next bit. So grabbing a hold of those pegs. Now your hips are lifted into the air as we begin. You got the tips of the toes on the extender. We start with that bear plank, and then you push into the full plank from here. So we're sending the hips nice and low. Now you're just going to do a couple of knee tucks. So just tucking the knees underneath you, and then drop the hips back down low. Tuck those knees, push away, bend, extend. Last 3 and 2. Last 1. And then you can push out, hold it here. We're going to hold for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we bend those knees. Just make sure you're taking that little breather in between, guys. So just taking a stretch, let your body rest and recover. It's really important. We don't want to send our body into shock. So just taking these little moments of recovery. Okay, so the next little layer, we're going to add in some upper body to this now. So we're adding a wheelbarrow at the end of the plank. And again, just choosing whichever progression you would like. Don't feel that you need to do this. So we start with that bear plank, and then you push away, you come into that full plank. Now from here, you push forward on your elbows. We're reaching the hands towards those risers, and then you tuck the elbows back underneath you. So push forward, tuck those elbows. So you'll really start to feel it through those biceps. We're going to do 3 more of these. Last 2. Last 1. Hold it here. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you can bend in. And again, just take that little stretch back. Okay. Right. We will leave it there for our core on this side. I'm going to take that box around to the other side and then finish off those legs that we've done on the right side now. Okay. So we set that box up. Just make sure that you're changing that blue spring back to a red spring for this first bit. Right foot, top left side of the box, and the left foot comes back against those shoulder blocks. We're standing nice and tall. We've got a little bit of a bend in that left knee, and then we just start with those single lunges. So we push in, and we return. Push in, and bring it back. 3, and 4. Let's do 4 more here. Last 3. Good. So same thing. Make sure you've got that nice hinge forward with your body. Nice big bend in that left knee. We're going to push out. Hold it here. We hold for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you can come all the way back in. Okay, we're going to add in that skater now. So we start standing nice and tall. As you exhale, you push that carriage away. We come into that extension, and then we're staying low, and we're just adding those skaters. So we skate for 6, 5, 4, 3, last 2, last 1. And then you can draw that carriage all the way back in. Okay, now we're going to drop that red spring down onto that blue spring. So same rules apply. You come back to that same setup. Take a breather if you need it. Okay. We stand up nice and tall. You drop low and then push that carriage away. So we start with those singles. So we come nice and low. Bring it back in. Drop it low. Bring it back. And 3. 3 more. And 2. Good, last 1, push it down, hold it there. Nice, we're starting our skaters this time for that extra little progression. You can reach those hands up and overhead. Stay as low as we can. We've got 4, 3, 2, 1, good. And then just for that last little bit of spice, we draw the carriage in, lift up through that left heel, and then we just finish with those little pulses. Do as many as you can do. 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you can lift up. Probably going to need to shake your legs up after that one. Okay. Glute work on the other side. So we've got right foot in the center of the box, left foot is up against those shoulder blocks, tips of the toes are touching the shoulder block. Both of the feet are facing forwards. We start standing nice and tall. You drop low into that lunge, and then you push that carriage away. Bring it back in, lift up and squeeze those glutes. Drop low, push away, bring it in, and lift. Drop low, push away, bring it in, lift. 3 more. Good, last 2. Nice, last 1. Good, stay low here. And then you just tuck in and pushing away with that knee. Good. Pushing off that left foot. 3 more here. Last 2. Last 1. And then you can bring it all the way back in. Good job. Okay, you can just get that box out of the way now. We don't need that anymore for this next bit. I'm going to do a little bit more upper body now. My tripod has decided to break, which is fabulous. Had about 15 tripods so far. Okay, right, so we're going back onto a red spring for this next bit. Now, you're gonna take your feet back into those headrests, and then we need to take a hold of one of our straps. So you're coming into the long strap, and then you grab a hold of the ring at this little. That is not good practice. Make sure that you put your straps back on the pegs so they're in easy reach. So you're not doing what I just did then, because that is extremely naughty. Okay, so let's start again. So strap comes into, hand comes into long strap. Grab a hold of your ring at this spongy bit, and then we hold on at the other spongy bit, and then you take that ring to the chest. So we sit up nice and tall, draw the shoulders away from the ears. You take a nice deep breath, and then just as you exhale, you just reach in that ring out in front. So just power pressing it out in front of the chest. And then we bend the elbows back to the ribs and return. Bring it in and push away. Bring it in, push away. 4 more of these. And 3. Last 2. Last 1. And then you're going to come all the way back in. Now that may well be enough for you. If you're adding in the next progression, we're adding in a high kneel as we reach that ring forward. So we start in the same position, but as we exhale and reach that ring forward, we lengthen out the arms. You're lifting up into a high kneel. Now you start to sit back on the heels as you bend the elbows back towards the ribs, and then we come back to that same setup, so the ring is at the chest. Exhale, as you reach forward, lengthen through those arms, and then we bend and come back. So that red spring is going to give you a little bit of control through the carriage, so you don't really want to be on a blue spring for this because you might tip forward, which we don't want. So start to slowly lift up through that high kneel. That ring comes out in front, and then we bend the elbows as you sit back. Couple more, reach forward, sit back on those heels. Last 2 here. Sit back, make sure we're squeezing the glutes at the top. Last one, reach forward, hold it here, and then you're going to start some overhead reaches. So we keep the arms straight. You just reach in those hands up and overhead. Good. Couple more. Last one. Bring that ring back to the chest, and then you can sit back on those heels. Does start to get the thighs again quite quickly. Really does get the heart rate. Got a little bit cold again, so the jacket is going back on. It's probably going to come off in a minute. But so we start in that same setup, but we've just got the ring in one hand this time. So we are just keeping a hold of the strap in one hand, and then that ring comes down towards the hip. So as we exhale, we just start to take that ring up and over the body. You're adding in a bit of a rotation through your spine, and your gaze is going to follow your hands. You try and keep the arms nice and straight as you lift up. I'm going to do about 6 of those, and then you're going to start to add in a high kneel to this. So as we lift that ring up and over, you start to lift up through those heels, and you come into that high kneel position. Just make sure that you control it on the way up. We keep nice and stable. we lift up nice and high. Good. And then you can come all the way back in. Just pop that ring onto the platform extender for a second. You're going to come into the short strap. We're going to add a little hinge forward with our body. So think about bringing your ribs towards your thighs here. We just start with a bicep curl. So you just bring that fist towards your shoulder. Then you're going to rotate your palm around. So we've got the palm facing towards the front of the room now. And then you extend that arm out in front of you. So we think about reaching up and overhead. Then you just bend the elbow out to the side. And then we reach forward. So bend and reach. Working through those biceps here. Bend and reach. We're doing a couple more. Working through our shoulders a little bit here as well. Last two here. Good, last one. And then you can sit up and release that strap. It can come back onto that peg, and then you take a hold of that strap in your other hand. So we take a hold again of that long strap. You hold on with your right hand, and we start with that ring at the hip. So we just start, we sat back on our heels, and we reach up and over. Reach up and over. Good. And 3. Last 2. Last one, reaching up and over. And then we can take it back to the hip. All right, so when you're ready, we're adding in that high kneel. So maybe take a little bit of a breather in between, roll back the shoulders, and then we go. So we reach up and over, adding that little rotation through the spine as we lift. We try and keep those hands nice and straight. Sit back, control it as we return and sit back through those heels. Good, we've got 3 more. Last 2. And last one. Ooh. Sit back on those heels, and then we can get rid of that ring. And then we'll just finish with that little work through the bicep. So we start, we've got that little pitch forward in our body. We come into that bicep curl, rotate the palm around so the palm is facing forwards, and then we lengthen out through that arm. Now you think about bringing the elbow out to the side in line with your shoulder, and then reach it up. Bend, extend. Good. 3 and 4. 4 more here. Last 3 and 2. Good. Last one, and then you can sit up. Slowly take that hand out of the strap, and then it can come back onto the peg. Good job, guys. Right, we are going to do some stretches. We've made it to our stretches, which is always personally my favourite part of the class. So we are popping our box on. I've also taken off all springs, so no springs on. Now your box is going to come on short ways, and then I want you to stand in the footwell of your Reformer facing the back of the room or your tower if you've got a tower, and then we're just lifting that left heel onto the box. Now your hands are on your hips. You might have a little bit of a bend, micro bend in that knee on the right side. Now you're just going to push that heel away. So you find that stretch down the back of the leg. So think just about reaching that heel forwards. And then you bring it back in. Push that heel away. And we bring it back. Now taking the hands onto the foot bar behind you. And then we're adding in a bit of an arch through our spine this time as we push that heel away. Just getting a deeper stretch through that hip flexor on the right side. Finding that lovely arching through the spine. And then this time the hands are going to reach up and overhead. And then as you start to reach those hands forward, up and over the toes, you bring the heel towards you. So you'll feel the stretch down the back of the calves. Also through the lower spine, through adding on those hands touching the box. And then we lift up and we can come out of it. Let's switch sides. So right hand, right heel comes onto the box. We start with our hands on the hips, and then you just think about reaching that heel away, lengthening through that leg on the right side. And then bring it back in, push away, and bring it back. And then we bring our hands onto that foot bar, and then we add that arching through the spine as we reach that heel away. Bring it back in, and reach, bring it back. Hands are going to lift up and overhead, and then as you exhale, you bring that heel towards you. The tips of the toes just touch the box, and then we can lift up, and we reach up and over. Good, and then you can reach up. Both hands can come onto the box now. You're just going to reach forward with those hands. Find that deep stretch through the back of the legs, through the shoulders. Hold it there for a couple of breaths. 3, 2, 1. And then we can slowly start to peel up through that spine, rippling that spine up. Head comes up last. And you are done. I hope you enjoyed that, guys.